Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with Max for your Monday night fans forum, where we get into all things Villa on and off the pitch and get your questions and your comments. And pinned at the top of the chat is the link to come on to the show live if you want to ask a question, make a comment on on anything you want with the Villa and get our views on it. So you can get involved in the show or you can get involved in the comments. It is entirely up to you. Make sure, guys, you smash that like button and do subscribe if you are new to the channel. We're at 2,727 subscribers so far, so well on the road to 3K. We want to hit it before Christmas. You guys are the ones that can help us do it, so make sure you like as soon as you jump in and subscribe if you are new to the channel. Already got people in the chat. What's is in the house? Evening all. Hope you're well. Up the Villa. Rubs in the house. Evening, folks. Michael, happy Monday all. Deontay, happy Monday, everyone. And Adamski's in the house as well. Hi all. Max, how are you doing, mate? Good to see you.
Not too bad. It's always easier to come on after a decent win. So not too bad. How's yourself?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Very well. I know you were on last Tuesday, wasn't it, with the UTV boys? That was a great fans forum, and we have got exciting news coming up in a few weeks' time with some more special guests coming onto the fans forum. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, that was a great show, talking around kind of our expectations for the season, what we were excited about, and in fairness, the expectations haven't taken a dive at all after the weekend, mate.
No, not at all. If anything, it's getting better. I mean, I don't think it was very good for the most part. But I mean, a win to be title contenders, you got to win those tough away games, and that's what we're doing. So take it as they come at the minute, I think.
Exactly. And do you know what? I know after watching the game, I think I've gone through 3 different stages of emotions over the course of the last 24 hours. So watching the game, I was, you're incredibly tense. Tottenham away kind of does that as well. The big stadium, quite a big atmosphere. They get very excited when their team goes on the attack. So it's quite an intense. They play in that intensive way as well, and you're sitting there and you're kind of like, it's on a white knuckle ride of a game. So the instant match reaction is kind of buzzing and kind of really hyper. Then you go into like the full match reaction, which we did last night. You kind of reflect on it a little bit more, still obviously completely buzzing from the game and everything that's occurred with it. And then I've come to today and I've actually thought to myself, I've sat back and I've thought to myself, do you know what? Other than that first 15, 20 minutes where Tottenham really did pulverise us, in particular the second half, I think we were pretty much in control of that second half, and Tottenham absolutely fell off a cliff in terms of their capability to press and even just run in any way, shape, or form. Completely fell off a cliff after about the 65th minute.
Yeah, you could tell the game was off as soon as, because you look at their bench. It was as soon as when Bentancur goes off, they bring on Højbjerg, and then after that, it was Eric Dyer was on there, and then the rest of them were 20, 19, and 18. I think the 3 left were, so they had nothing to bring on. So as soon as their legs were gone a bit, especially when we brought on Tielemans, it just meant we could control. We just boxed that midfield off, and then they were chasing the ball. But I mean, the thing was, they still felt like they could have scored at any point. I mean, Son's had 2 ruled off, so it did feel like it was there for them to go and get one.
He's born offside though, Son. He's off. He plays on the edge, doesn't he? So he's it's not just Villa who catch him offside. He tends to be offside quite a lot in games, and yeah, I mean they can point to being close, but then you point into the fact that that's poor attacking play. We kind of criticised Ollie Watkins for not holding his run. You should be able to say exactly the same thing to Son, particularly with a couple of those efforts. The one that rebounds off the post, you can't really do anything about. But the other 2, he should be. He's fast enough to stay on side. So Yeah.
The frustrating thing was their goal came from just a nick off Carlos. Other than that, they didn't. I know they scored the offside goals, but other than that, I can't really think that they created that much. I mean, there's the Kulusevski one where he hits the post from
Yes,
that close.
I actually completely forgot about that in the whole intensity of the game. So I think Udogie hit one over, Kulusevski hit the inside of the post, and then there was the double save from Martinez in the second half. Apart from that, and Ben Davies headed over from a corner. But then
so then you had 5 gilt-edged chances.
Yes, yeah. But then you flip that, Pau Torres header. Like, how is he not scoring that? You've then got Ollie Watkins, the glancing header. You've got
Watkins again.
Watkins again with the other header after Kamara shot. You've got Leon Bailey hitting the post off a keeper mistake. So I know that's not a big chance, but you've got 3 other big chances for Villa versus their 5 big chances, and then you've got 2 other shots on target and the Luca Digne free kick as well. You've got 3 other shots on target. So, like I say, as an away performance in terms of like getting chances from the opposition, yes, they attacked with a lot of intensity, but a lot of it was a lot of huff without any puff, so to speak. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it was. But obviously, we're gonna get into. But I just wanted some general. I just wanted to talk over my general thoughts over the course of the last 24 hours in terms of that of that game. Just in terms of the comments, Adamski says we dominated. We were composed for most of the second half. What else have we got? Yeah, Michael says spot on, Richard. Rub says many of the pundits, commentators, etc., don't even watch the games. They see highlights and then go on to comment. They see all the offside goals and so on and think it's domination. Yeah, exactly.
Feel for that.
Yeah, and you know they conveniently forgot that Ollie Watkins had a goal that was marginally ruled out offside. So, and that was immediately after Tottenham scored. Adamski said that Ange Ball is Bielsa Ball 2.0, but with better quality players, and that style of total attacking football is unsustainable with crap defenders, and then the injuries that seem to come with it.
I saw a thing.
Yeah, go on.
I can't remember where I saw it. Someone was commenting on it on YouTube or Twitter or something. Because Postecoglou said you can play any type of football with any team. So, like he said, he's basically gonna whatever team he puts out for Tottenham, they're always going to play the same way. But just in my head, I thought it doesn't really make sense because surely he's got to try and you can't play 4 fullbacks and play the way they were playing because it was just, especially towards the end, they were getting caught out like so much towards the end. I just thought it was a weird. I like Andrew. I think he's usually pretty spot on with what he says, but I thought that was a bit of a weird one.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when they get their players back, they will go back to being, you know, good again. Yeah. But it does lead to a situation where you come up against Villa, who are a better side, probably not as clinical, even as you know we've criticised us for missing chances. You know, Ollie Watkins being the main culprit, but he's in great form at the moment. But like you think you go up against a Liverpool or a Liverpool away from home or a Man City or an Arsenal even or you know when they're on form and stuff and they've worked them out, they're going to come up against more clinical sides that are going to punish that type of football. And also, I was going to say, the likes of a Newcastle and of a Tottenham now who play that in your face. You know, really high tempo, high pressing style of football. Yes, it's quite simple, so you can implement players who aren't maybe as technically good, and they can go in and do that style of play. But you're gonna get injuries, like because I know they talk about we're playing all these games and we don't get rest and that. But if you're asking your players to cover the amount of ground that you're asking them to cover, it's like you've got to hold yourself accountable to some of these injuries that you're inflicting on some of your players because you're just asking for trouble.
I mean, a lot of them are injury prone anyway. I mean, Maddison's been injured every season for the past however long and stuff like that. So it's not like a surprising thing. It's just because they've let go of so many players and then they brought in a good quality of players, but they didn't bring in enough. So I think that's their problem really, because even with, I think it's 9 or 10 injuries they've got, something like that. But even still, you should have enough quality to not have to have an 18-year-old striker coming on and stuff like that. I think that's a bit of an oversight, but I think we wouldn't be. I don't know how well we deal with it either. To be fair, having that many injuries.
No, yeah, you've got to feel a little bit sorry for them, but like I say, it's part of the job, and I'm sure they'll get players in January. But look, it just goes to that whole point of, I guess, and I'm not saying that Villa haven't had credit from this result, but it's like I said, I've gone through the points of thinking, you know what, actually, like reassessing the game, I actually thought it was a really poor first half. Don't get me wrong, we were way off, but a really good second half in which we just wrestled control away from Tottenham and actually looked like a better side than them. And yes, they've had injuries and all that kind of stuff, but we really did look like a good side. And yeah, we showed it. A few more comments coming in. Greg, fellow Northeast Lion, says Martin has had the Davis header covered. And yeah, Rub going through lots of the chances that we had. Paul in the house says we are a great team. Nobody recognises this. Rich is in the house, says he's late. Sorry, he's late watching the 1874 show with Dan. No problem at all. We love Dan. Great that we've got podcasts going on as well. Greg said the drama about Cash's tackle, which was late but a yellow all day long. But you'd think that he'd taken him out with knee high with 2 feet. Gaza says Cash's tackle completely changed the game and we went on to dominate. It was a thing of beauty. And Steve 24/7 said Spurs can't talk about challenges. Remember their Chelsea game. Yeah, I mean, I talked about this a bit yesterday. It's and Rub says on some other podcast, a Spurs fan named it a knee-high challenge and repeated it once. Challenge ridiculous. Yeah, I think that was a Harry someone. But yeah, it's hilarious. I don't know if this has been confirmed by the club, but apparently he's got a bruised ankle, and he's going to be okay for the game on the weekend.
I just think it's just the thing is, I think if it had been anyone else on the pitch other than Matty Cash, they probably wouldn't have got the reaction it's got. It's only because he did Doherty a few years ago in it, so that's the only reason and also he's back from injury, and they've already had enough injuries. So I think, it was such a. And then there was also saw on Twitter the moan about a Digne tackling the box for a penalty, and so they were just looking for anything just to discredit it. But it wasn't. It was a yellow card and nothing more, and then he came off anyway. So it wouldn't have. I still don't think it was. There's no chance it was a red card.
Nah,
I was clapping. I was like, that's an unbelievable challenge. Even if you don't see enough of that kind of thing anymore.
I thought it was a bit of a cynical one. It was a bit of a frustrated tackle, but it's a yellow card, nothing more, nothing less. That's it for me. But look, it is what it is. I don't want to keep going over it. But yeah, look, I think it was a really good away performance. It was something that we'd needed as well. I think it'll give the players huge confidence going into the next games. We've obviously got a tough one against Bournemouth in a different way because they're on good form. We'll come into that later on this week when we do the match previews. But looking at it, and Gaza has asked the question. Let me just try and find it. As said, anyone else finally agree that we're in the title race yet? Paul definitely does. He said he can see Villa definitely challenging for the title. Are you getting excited, Max? 3 points off the. Let me just get the table. Let me just get the table up.
2 points behind Arsenal, isn't it?
Yeah. So we are 2 points off the top. We are joint on points with Liverpool, who are in third place at the moment, and we're 1 point off Man City. Man City have Spurs on the weekend. Arsenal have Wolves. Liverpool have Fulham. Villa have Bournemouth, and Man United have Newcastle. So a couple of teams playing each other within that top 7. And then obviously we've got Bournemouth, Liverpool got Fulham, Arsenal got Wolves. So there's a real opportunity. I'm not counting any chickens at all, but there's a real opportunity in us being in the top 2 going into a game against Man City the week after. I mean, you've got to say we're in a title race at the moment. You've got to say it.
It's not so much that I think we're ever going to win the title. I don't think that's really what it's about at the minute. It just gets on my nerves when I'm watching Match of the Day last night, and you got I think it was Jermaine Genius, I think it was, and he says he's on about it's a race, it's a 3-horse race for the title now, but Villa are on the same points as all of them. So, and we're not 4 games into the season, and Villa happen to have played 3 games and won 3, and just happen to be there. We're a third of the way into the season now, and the table looks now how it probably ish will finish at the end of the season, and I think it's just disrespect at this point. I think there's an air of like, oh, it's just Villa who used to be in the Championship and Villa who got relegated and stuff like that. I think we're such a good football team at the minute. I think people just don't watch us enough. I think if people did,
we're almost a bit of an afterthought, aren't we, at this moment in time? And I think we're starting to get that notice because we beat Tottenham, and for whatever reason, Tottenham are always mentioned in the conversation before an Aston Villa, which is fine. I don't agree with it, but it's fine. But yeah, now we're kind of getting that, and like loads in the comments saying Paul saying we've won the same amount of wins as City. I'll ask this question: do you think, because obviously the away defeats against Newcastle and Liverpool were quite heavy, and obviously against kind of rivals in the moment in that top 6 area, had we beaten one of those 2 sides but lost, say, at home to West Ham, for argument's sake, do you think they'd have said, "Oh, actually, Villa are in a title challenge because we've beaten one of Newcastle or Liverpool away"? Or do you think they would have been saying exactly the same thing?
I don't. Well, the whole thing at the minute is, well, Villa are the best at home, but they're terrible away. Is the narrative at the minute? Like Ben Foster doing his prediction saying, "Oh, Villa will lose to Tottenham because they're rubbish away from home." But I think we've won 3, lost 3, and drawn 1. So we've got a 50-50 ratio pretty much, and then we've won every single game at home. So I think at the minute the narrative is that we've lost all these away games, but Man City have lost at Wolves. Like everyone loses games. It's not like a crazy thing to lose. I mean, it's just the manner of those losses didn't help. Especially the Forest one being so recent as well. That hasn't really helped it. But I think it's just it's a weird one at the minute. I don't really know what the. I think
you say, it's almost as if Villa are getting punished for winning all their home games on the back of losing like 3 away games. I just as I've said, if you reverse it and you think, oh, maybe we lose one of those home games but win one extra of those away games, then people go, oh, they're brilliant at home because they've only lost 1, but they're also really good away because they've only lost 2. Like it's the same situation. Like if we can be like, if we went through the whole season losing 1 or 2 home games the whole season, but won, say, 10 away games, we'd get in the Champions League. Like it just wouldn't be an argument. So yeah, it just doesn't really wash for me. Like I know we're kind of saying this talk after beating Spurs in that sort of sense, and it was a close game, but every away game generally is going to be close. So you're going to have to ride your luck a little bit. You're going to have to weather the storm a little bit, and then generally you're going to win by the odd goal. So that's just how it happens, So I don't really see where the argument is, we won't be there, we'll fade away. If the pundits had maybe said, you know what, they've got Arsenal and Man City coming up at home in 2 weeks' time. If they win one of those games, then I would say they're in the title race. I would say that. But they're not saying that. They're just saying, oh, they're not very good away from home. It just doesn't make sense.
There's no logic
completely to it doesn't make sense to me. Loads of comments. Gary has said he's not having it at all at the moment. It's way too early, and we're due a bad run. But top 5, yes, that's probably the most logical perspective. Greg said if we'd beaten Forest, we'd be top right now. As I said, Paul said we got the same amount of wins as City. Gaza said beat City and Arsenal and we're clear. Rachel said I don't think we are in for the title. Yeah, to be fair, probably right, Rachel. But it's great to, as CC in the second says, obviously what's he said. Some of them Spurs players need a BAFTA. Yeah, definitely. CC, nice to dream, and maybe we'll flirt with it as that's good for the players and club. But we aren't in a title race, but we are likely king makers.
I mean, Unai Emery said we're not even going to get Champions League after the game, so he's not.
He's just saying that though. He's just saying that.
He's not.
He's keeping his. Yeah. He wouldn't. Yeah, it wouldn't be clever for him to go into an interview on Sky Sports or on BBC and say, "Oh yeah, we're going to get the Champions League." Like he's just talking about, yes, I wanted to do big things at the club, and he keeps it very, very sensible. Rachel, we're in nosebleed territory at the minute. Dale's in the house. Great to have you on board, mate. Adamski said, if we get results at home versus City and Arsenal, then we're in the title race. Marine Boy says 3 away wins in the so-called poor away form. Liverpool have 2 away wins and good away form. Yes. Rich freaking loves this club. Title race. Yes, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Stephen said, if Man United are still in, then we are too. Absolutely. But CC, doesn't blame the pundits. We have to show real consistency. I just think, to be fair, we have shown that consistency, but we need to beat a Liverpool, City, or Arsenal. We really do. That's where we are. That's where we are. And as Gary said, we can't beat Liverpool, City, or Arsenal, so we're not yet ready. But I think we can beat them. I think we can beat one of them this time round. Ruffling their feathers, guys. They are well jealous. Philly D said the pundits ignoring us doesn't bother me. Keep going under the radar. Absolutely. Peter Collins said, "Oh man, can you imagine the limbs if we can win the next 3 games? Unbelievable that would be." Rachel said, "I do think we need to improve the away form in terms of performance, and our home form will dip slightly." Of course, yeah, you can't go through a season 100% away home wins. This is not having. You just can't do it. Michael said, "All I have to say is it's still all to play for." Gary said, "It's like Girona in Spain. We all know Madrid or Barca will win it." Ahmed said, "If the league table's the same after the next 4 games, we're in with a small shout." Paul said, "We're a top Midland team and about time we are now rivals, and I have an amazing feeling we can do it." Exactly, mate. AVFC Watsy, 77 points in 38 games under Unai, is a top 4 team. There you go, Max Gaza there. Emery's still saying we're only a top 7 side after that, even after the Spurs game. Yeah, Adamski, they won't admit we're in the race till we're 2 points ahead in first, and it's the last match of the season. Yes, Marine said Bournemouth could be a Forest banana skin. Yes, we can't take that. For granted. Greg says Emery's excellent at keeping away from sound bites, always playing everything down and keeping the team grounded. Exactly, he's even keeping like Douglas Luiz grounded. It's brilliant. Just saying he's still stuff he can do to improve. It just keeps them going. Like it keeps them thinking. Stops them from their eye wandering to one of the so-called bigger boys. Michael makes a great point. We don't need to beat Man City or Arsenal to be in the title race as long as we beat everyone else. Exactly. Just people saying, we are in the title race. Greg saying he worries about the Bournemouth game. It's obviously the winnable game. I think it's really easy to underestimate them, especially after an away win this week. Yeah, I agree, mate. I agree, but hopefully they've learned from that Forest experience that they're not going to do that. But we have, yes, as Marine Boy said, lost the last 2 at Bournemouth, 2-0 and 2-1. So we really do need to get a win. Actually, we've lost Bournemouth 4 out of the 5. So yeah, they're a bit of a bogey side for us. Will Munder said, "Would you love to bet against us?" The old famous saying. Bloom's in the house said every game is a must win or at least a not lose. Gary said the lads might get in a Christmas party this year as well. And CC said, "I see every match we play as an opportunity to refine our game, whether we win, lose, or draw." Exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, just in conclusion, where do you sit on that? Like, actually, I was going to ask you, before I ask you that question, where do you see kind of Europe coming into this equation? Because at the moment, after a European game, we've generally done very, very well in the next game. We haven't let it kind of affect us as such. Touch wood. Where do you see that happening kind of later on? You know, should everything go well and we get through, where do you see that kind of affecting our priorities later on in the season if we are up there still?
I'm not sure. I mean, I've never really thought about it because going into the season, it was kind of like if you win the Conference League and finish 7th again, then that'll be a good season. But then if you got the chance to get top 4, but I mean, I don't know where, because I mean we've got Legia on Thursday, and if we win that, then we're guaranteed to be through. But then at the same time, we want to beat Zrinski to get that top spot, so we've got an easier draw come the next round. So I don't know. Well, as you say, we've done well every single time, like after the game. So it might act as if a bit of a motivator because it gets players involved that might not be. And look at Tielemans. He's used those games, and now he's even come from me, he's been one of our best players the last 2 games. So I think it gives that opportunity. I think, and as well, there's players like Lenglet who's been really good in the Conference League and stuff like that. So I think there's chances for people, especially with January. There's new signings to come in, then can almost try and rotate as much as possible in those, and it gives you a bit of a breather for some people, even if they're playing a half or like 20 minutes, or whatever.
Yeah, no, it is going to be interesting how he weighs it up. Like, I certainly don't think he'll do an old Martin O'Neill, but it will be without being disparaging to the competition, you know, a Europa Conference League, until you get to that semi-final, final stage, when you're in that last 16 or the whatever, or even the quarterfinals, you're probably playing a team with a much lower budget than what we are on, and you can kind of continue to manage it a little bit better than, say, the Europa League in the past and the type of squad we had then. So now we've got, and you make a great point in that you've got Clement Longley, you've got Ramsey coming back, you've got Moreno coming back. That's not to say we might not have injuries in the future. You've got Leon Bailey, who comes off the bench at this moment in time. You've got Duran, who's came off the bench yesterday briefly, but looks like he's kind of hopefully got over his injuries. You've got Zaniolo, who wasn't on the bench yesterday, but was carrying a slight knock. You've got potential January transfers to come in. You've got Eric Bonham, who's starting to get more fitness. So you've automatically now got some players who can, slot into those Europa Conference League spots, leaving some of the players free. My only concern, or 2 concerns really, and we will get into kind of January reinforcements because Rich has made a good point. It's still Ollie Watkins gets injured or Emi Martinez gets injured. And those are your 2 massive positions, because that is goal scoring, goalkeeping, and those are the 2 areas where we are really, really, really thin on the ground.
Yeah, well, I mean, I always think, in fairness, with that kind of thing, you could say that with any team. I mean,
of course,
I mean,
yeah.
There's, other than maybe Man City with Ortega, any team in the league's going to struggle if they goalkeep
Arsenal.
number 1. And Arsenal, if their number 1 gets injured, then they're a bit screwed. But for all that he's made a few mistakes last year, I don't even think Olsen's that bad personally. I think for what he is, he's got a lot of experience. He's been played in Europe for most of his career, I think, and there must be something. There must be something there for Gerrard and then now Emery to think he's the number 2.
I think he's happy to do that. I think, well, yeah. He's not happy, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
He's accepting of the fact that he is the number 2 goalkeeper. Whereas if you had another goalkeeper, for example, who was, you look at the Ramsdale situation. It's a hard situation to manage. So yes, he's got 2 goalkeepers, but it's still it's all the headlines that it brings with it. So if you've got someone who's happy to be that number 2, or you've got a young up and comer who's, like the Kelleher situation at Liverpool, who he is starting to get more games. He started off, only playing sparingly. Now he's starting to get more games. Then that's kind of what you want. But we've and look, they're both durable players, and Adamski's told me to stop talking. But it's one of them. It's one of them where I just think a lot hinges on that. Few comments coming in. Steve 24/7 said our owners will push on in January. Gaza says never mind top 4, we got to go for silverware. But then Gary said it's too early for the Champions League. Look at Newcastle. Europa League would be better, especially if we win the Conference League. You're shaking your head. I'll come to you in a second. Steve says top 4 is worth way more to buy better players. And then Gary said, let's win something, set the ball rolling trophy-wise. Gaz is in the house. Gaz Oaks in the house. Good evening, mate. And I did see you said you were in a ranty mood, so hopefully not too ranty, mate, but we get your comments out. Don't worry about that. CC said, I would kind of like the set Euro Cup, Euro Conference, Europa and Champions League. That would be amazing. Gaza said, surely if Emery got injured, we'd break the bank and sign De Gea on a free. I think it's wages, though. He automatically want to be vastly the highest paid player in the club. Peter says, really, Ollie has only scored 7 of our 31 Premier League goals. To me, that says we're pretty deep. Great point. Actually, that's a great point. The goals are coming from all angles. So yeah, that's a really good point, Peter. I hadn't thought about it in that way. I know Ollie produces a lot around that as well in terms of assists and stuff. But yeah, that's a good point. McGinn's contributed, Louise has contributed, Bailey's contributed, Diaby, Pau Torres has now got 2 goals. We can actually score from set pieces, Max. We can score from set pieces. We should have had 3 goals from set pieces yesterday. We got 1.
Austin McPhee earning his cash.
Yeah. Rob doesn't agree with you about Olsen. He said he is that bad. He's not bad in general, but he's bad in the Villa style of play because having to play with the ball stresses him. Rachel says she thinks we'll integrate Cianasalo as our number 2 next year. Gary said if we don't sign a
League 1 and 2 football.
Say that again, mate.
He's only played League 1 and League 2 football.
That's true. That is true. But
I have seen him a few times for Burton when he was there last year, and he was very good. But
yeah,
for what we're looking for, maybe not quite yet.
Yeah, it's one of them. Again, it's like a Kelleher situation, isn't it? Do you bring him in as number 2 for Carabao Cup, that kind of stuff, and get him involved in those, or does he go out in the Championship on loan or something next season? Gary said, if we don't sign a keeper and a striker, we're done. Olsen is not a reserve keeper who can come in for 1 game at a time. Debu is irreplaceable, said Peter. I think Emery likes him because he's good in the dressing room, says Rub. There's only 1 Debu. Gaz, making the point. 38 games under Emery, 77 points. Absolutely. Whereas Rich says, tell me of another keeper.
Before his release.
Yeah. Rachel said Emery's character will be a decisive factor for the number 2 slot as they will need to adapt and support him. Will Munda said we need Champions League to keep the good squad. That's another point as well. As the standard of our play gets higher, the expectations of the fans gets higher, but also in turn the expectations of the players gets higher about where they should be. Douglas Luiz is a Champions League level player. Emi Martinez, Champions League level player. Are they going to want Kamara, Champions League level player? Diaby, Champions League level player? Are they going to give it another season, or is it Is it win or bust this season? Is it Champions League or bust this season? I don't know. You know, that's the risk you take as well, Max, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that comment saying that Europa League would be better, whatever. I agree with the fact that winning the Conference League would be good and stuff like that. But if we can get Champions League, that's just. Well, I don't know what, you can't ask for much more than that. Considering most fans would have taken 6th at a push this season, to say we're in a chance now to get Champions League, and it's a realistic aim. It's not like we're saying, "Oh, if we win all these games in a row or whatever, we'll be in there." We're literally in the mix, like with a decent wedge of the season gone, I think, and even just the simple stuff of having the Champions League music at Villa Park and stuff, and like John McGinn playing in the Champions League. It's just like that kind of thing. You can't even, like, it's just like, even the novelty kind of side of it is just an amazing thought. Never mind the actual, like, the players. I mean, look at Newcastle signing Tonali and stuff like that. Like a man who was going to be AC Milan captain. I know what everything that's happened and stuff like that, but a man who was going to be captain of one of the biggest teams in the world, and now he's a Newcastle player just because they got into Champions League. So it helps massively. It just, it's simple as, really.
Yeah, I agree. Peter said there, having Ramsey and Moreno back now is as good as a transfer window for us. And Gary, he thinks we're nitpicking a little bit about the team, but we do need a couple of upgrades. So just with that in mind, and with Rich Edwards' comment before about kind of, upgrading in January, I guess the obvious ones are kind of an option at right back, striker, but is that kind of everything that you think, or do you see any other areas, or do you agree with those areas where upgrades could be made?
Yeah, right back is the one for me, I think. Not that, I mean, Cash had a good season, don't get me wrong, but I think Emery wants, like, I think he likes Consa there, and he wants that kind of, like, Juan Foyth, that kind of player that's like kind of a sit back and just soak up the pressure, because as good as Consa was fine yesterday, I can't say that he did anything wrong, whatever, but he's a much better centre back. I didn't think much of Carlos yesterday, to be honest. Not that he did much wrong, but like stuff like the elbow and kind of the rash decision.
Got better as the game went on, didn't he, Carlos? But that was direct.
Yeah,
that was directly correlated with the fact that Tottenham couldn't run anymore after 60 minutes. So
I think in an ideal world, Consa's at centre back, and then we've got like a more defensive minded right back to slot in for these bigger games. And then a striker is the next obvious one. Although I really did like John Duran's performance when he came on.
Yeah, a little cameo, didn't he? He was putting tackles in, tackles in, he was putting himself about. He had a shot. He did everything in like 6 minutes. It was crazy.
So good.
But again, the space that they were afforded was something to behold, to be honest. I think he had the whole half to himself, basically. But like the attacking half to himself. But everyone agreeing in the comments, really. Gaz Adamski says Cash, an upgrade on that, or an option. Gaz said, I think I would like some right back cover. Rachel said the one for me for Jan is right back to compete with Cash. Marine said, ain't it nice to be talking about Champions League when just over a year ago we were talking about Championship? Absolutely. Adamski said a right back, goalkeeper backup, another attacking midfielder, and a striker option. So a few upgrades for that. Guys said not cover competition. I mean, if we could pull a right back Moreno out of the bag, that would be nice. Yeah. I'll come back to Gaz's question in a second. Rachel said Diego Carlos needs time as he hasn't had the run of games to adjust to the Prem. Rich said he thought he was good. Yeah, I thought he grew into the game. I really did. Michael said right back is more likely to happen than anywhere else in the January window. Gary said Cash is a squad player now. That's about Emery leaving. I don't see it. I think even if we don't get the Champions League, I don't see Emery moving on. I think he just wants progress, more and more progress. Clive says reserve keeper, please. And I don't know if he'll see that as a real massive priority yet, though. I don't know. Gaza said, here's one for you. Would you take any Everton players should they go down? Doucouré, Calvert-Lewin, perhaps?
No.
Do you think any Everton players would be looking to go? Like, with the fact that they have had the 10 points deduction, do you think any of them will be angling to go in January?
I think they're in a good. I mean, I know the points deduction isn't ideal or whatever, but before that, they're in a good place. So I don't see a world where they've got much to worry about. I also think the points deduction will probably get rescinded until, because if they're going to repeal it, then I can't imagine that they can keep the deduction on there if they're repealing it, because then it's got to go to like a separate body, surely. So I don't know how that works. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm trying to think of who I'd take from their squad, to be fair, if there was the option.
Yeah. I think that Onana's pretty decent. We were
Yeah,
obviously interested in Jack Harrison, weren't we? But he kind of failed the medical at Villa, or he got the injury, and then Everton took the chance on him. Whether he's anything like the quality that we need, I don't know.
Brantthwaite's quite decent.
It's a difficult one. Calvert-Lewin as a backup. I mean, he'd want to play, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I mean,
Brantthwaite is decent, the centre back, but yeah, AVFC US is saying that. Yeah. Dale said Onana. Yeah. Adamski doesn't understand why Zaniolo could change position from whatever he is to a number 9. He seems to have the qualities and the build for a striker. A few people have mentioned that as well. People are saying, Dale saying Acuna seems to be incoming, green light given by the Sevilla president. You mentioned the other day you weren't kind of sure about the kind of logic of that deal.
Well, I think,
has he played any more games since last week?
I'm not that I'm aware of, to be honest. I thought I'd read that he was.
Is he being badly injured? Is that right?
I'm pretty sure he got injured in that Man City game. He was on the bench.
Right,
he was on the bench. Yes, he's been on the bench for the last few games. Although he did play for Argentina in the break. So, but
Sevilla on a terrible run, aren't they?
I mean, he's just a weird one. I don't know. He can't be coming in to play left back. I can't see that being the case. Or not as a starting left back anyway.
Left back, maybe left wing back. He's started 6 matches this season.
Yeah, maybe as a midfield option. I just don't understand it. I think it's a bit of a strange one.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's more a character thing. Guys, yeah. We've got over 60 people watching, which is crazy on a Monday night. So thank you all for your support. Make sure you smash the like button and do hit the subscribe button if you are new to the channel. We want to continue to spread the word. We are heading on the road to 3K. Loads of shows to come this week and future shows as well. So make sure you stay tuned for the content that we provide. If you want to become a member as well, it's just $1.99. Hit the join button and follow the instructions on there. But yeah, I guess everyone's really talking about the striker option, the goalkeeper option, the right back option. But other than that, I think we're all right. I see. Like we talked about the options on the bench. We've talked about the options on the bench that we've got coming now. We've talked about Moreno and Ramsey coming back. Is it likely that Buendia could come back before the end of the season as well?
Yeah, well, apparently he's willing to let go Dendoncker, Traore, and Chambers in January if anything comes up for them. So maybe a midfield option if Dendoncker goes, even though he's not really playing. The problem is with all of it is you're basically signing players who aren't guaranteed to start straight away, which especially in January can be a hard thing because you got pushing for Champions League. You've got to sign players of a certain quality, but then you've also got to realise that they're not guaranteed any. I mean, look at Tielemans and stuff like that. They're not guaranteed to come just straight in and take their place. So that's the balancing act, I suppose.
Yeah, few people. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
I mean, if Dendoncker wants to stay, I think he should be allowed. Keep him.
Yeah, I know your favourite. young people saying Tim Igrabanam as well for cover, maybe. Rachel also saying he might be sold for FFP reasons.
He's not.
You never know.
He's not really that kind of player, though. He's more of a. I think he's more like a Louise. That kind. He's not like a pure defensive midfielder. He's like a.
No, he moved, didn't he? Because he was when he was playing in the youth side, he was playing in that role, and then I think Gerard picked him and he started playing that role. But then when he went to QPR, they played him in way more advanced position.
Yeah, he was like a roaming playmaker kind of thing. He's a bit like, I mean, just a bit like kind of way like Pogba used to play, kind of like starts deeper but kind of orchestrates things a bit more. He's a skillful player. He was quality for QPR under Michael Beale, and then he got injured and stuff like that. So
yeah. Paul says Nico and his brother Inaki would come to Villa. I can't. I just what's that?
Some Dendoncker slander from
Rome. Yeah, I'll come to that in a bit. But yeah, do you see? I just can't see the Nico Williams and Inaki Williams coming in January. No. I just can't see it. Maybe we'll do it in the summer. It's like when the news about Louise to Arsenal or whoever to wherever, these big transfers, they very rarely get done in January because they take so long to negotiate. Both parties, it takes so long unless a deal didn't get over the line in the summer window and then it's kind of left to January, and deals don't get done like that are so big. I can't see us doing that.
Bilbao are difficult. Well, not so much Bilbao as a club, but in terms of the players, they've all been there. Most of them, especially the two Williams, they've been there for years and years, and they're obviously their brothers playing together in the same team that like come through their academies and stuff like that. So that one's a tough one. That's the hard one. I mean, as it says there, I mean, Nico Williams' contract is a bit of an issue at the minute, I mean, come on, get him on a Bozeman. Who knows? Leave him there for the season, and then have him in the summer. But I think he'll just sign a new contract and stay there. To be honest, it's probably what's going to end up coming out of
it. What else we got? Yeah, Gaz said you don't get value on big signings in January. A few people saying that Dendoncker, like I say, should be challenging for first team spot, but it just doesn't seem like he's anywhere near. I know Kamar is out for Sunday. He might drop Tielemans back into that, although Tielemans has been way better, more advanced. He might even bring Tim. I don't know. Would he bring Eric Bonham in? I doubt it. Not for.
No, maybe not off a start. I do just think as he's limited in what he does, but for what he is, I think Dendoncker is just a very decent player. I mean, I know it was a while ago now, but that Newcastle game at Villa Park when we won that, he was immense. I mean, it's like when he was playing in those sorts of games, he was for what he does, he was pretty ideal. But I mean, Kamara is one of the best in the league at what he does for me. So I mean, it's not a slight at him that he's not playing over.
No, he just there's a massive difference. He's good for certain games. Look, a lot of people saying, Dale saying McGinn, could see McGinn dropping in, and Rachel agrees. I'm sure we'll get more on that as the week goes on. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see January, because I think a lot of the shape of our January window, as has been highlighted here, will be affected by the fact that, well, two reasons: Moreno and Ramsey getting back to full fitness, and then also how we get on in these games coming up, and that will impact us in terms of where we sit. And also, you want to make sure that you don't upset the apple cart. You want to make sure that you don't upset the rhythm of the squad. And sometimes bringing in too many players, or a type of player that is maybe different to what we've got, can sometimes change the element of how we're playing. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And as Rich said there, exciting times. Exactly. Just finally, something that's not quite as exciting is the Aston Villa women's team. I thought they'd really turned a corner after essentially 4 wins in a row in all competitions. Got the victory against Bristol City. Got another league victory. Who was it against? Was it Leicester?
Which one?
Before yesterday,
Blackburn.
and then yeah, the one in the one in that League Cup against Blackburn, and just let me check. Just
The
give me a
last 4
second.
have been Blackburn, West Ham.
West Ham. They
Bristol
beat
City,
West Ham in the Premier
Sheffield
League.
United.
Yeah, so they beat Sheffield United in the League Cup, then Bristol City in the league, West Ham in the league, Blackburn in the League Cup, and then lost at home to Everton, and that would have been a game that would took them up to 7th position. Now they sit in 10th position after losing 2-1 on 6 points, 2 points clear of West Ham and Bristol City, Bristol City are rock bottom. It's not looking good, mate.
No, I mean, the only, it's a positive and a negative in itself, but with like 60% plus possession, I'm pretty sure we made like nearly double their amount of passes. But I mean, we have more shots. I think just quality at the end of the day. I mean, Rachel Daly scores again because she always does. But I mean, other than that, they didn't feel like there was a lot coming from anywhere else. But I mean, it's an own goal on the penalty, which is a bit of the kick in the teeth is the only that kind of thing. But as I say, the playing style is just a bit wishy-washy. It's like keeping possession for possession's sake at some point. It's like some of the time it's a bit hard to watch at points just because it's a bit frustrating.
Yeah. Gary said the playing style so negative. Rich is saying keep the faith though. Yeah, it just like I've said before, it's such a disappointment from how well they finished last season, and you were expecting kind of, they made a big fanfare of the goalkeeper signing and 1 or 2 of the players signing extensions to contracts. I know they had a difficult pre-season with Kenza Darley injured and 1 or 2 others not getting up to full speed, but the games, you've got 5 teams really now in that league, and you thought Villa would be kind of up there in that 5 or 6 teams. It's a real gap. There's a real gap now, and they've got Man City next after the international break, which there's no chance they're going to win that. It's away from home. Especially with the way that they approach the games, they're not going to win it because what happened against Arsenal, they might take the lead and then they'll sit back and they'll just try and soak up the pressure, and in the end it's too difficult. It's too difficult to hold those teams off. They have got then League Cup, then they've got Brighton at home, which is a must win, and Leicester away, which is a must win. So they could come out of that with 4 wins and, I guess, what would that be in terms of defeats? 7 defeats. They might be in a little bit of a better situation there. But yeah, Michael said the same. I asked a question before about the women's contracts. Hard to keep our best players as they're so short. Yeah, I think they've got a couple on 2-year deals, but I can see Daly leaving if they have a January window. I can see her leaving because she ain't going to want to stick around, and Villa are going to have to cut their cloth accordingly. Like I saw, they got 12,000 to the first home game at Villa Park this season. They got 4,500 yesterday. So, you've really got to keep the results going on the pitch to attract the supporters to the games, because you've got to make, and you want to kind of keep those good players as we've said, it's shorter term contracts, but it's difficult, man. It's difficult. Yeah. But yeah, hopefully they can turn it around. I don't know how long, they're stuck with Carla Ward for, after the start of the season and the difficult period that she had. She seemed to have come through it. Now look, it's one defeat, but they should still, she's probably on a bit of borrowed time. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Mate, anything else you wanted to cover over the Villa? Anything else in the news? Anything off the pitch? Anything with your ear to the ground that's happening at the club?
No,
People were talking about Legia Warsaw around the ticketing issue. I don't know if they've sent quite a few tickets back, I think.
Yeah,
so I don't know whether there's going to be a big away contingent or not.
Yeah, well, the last 2 games have been at Villa Park, the European games. They haven't really sold out many tickets. I think, especially I know Zrinski aren't a massive team anyway, so that wasn't a massive surprise. But ours had only bought like the bottom tier and then a bit at the top, like a little tiny section. So, but I expect a big thing from Legia. To be fair, I don't know if their allocation is going to be shortened because of all the trouble they had after the game at their place. Maybe, I'm not sure.
Maybe.
But, I mean, the away fans have been nuts that have come over.
Yeah, they do. They do like to make some noise. Yeah,
I don't ever like to sit and think. Oh, I wish. But like when they, especially it was the Hibs game and the Zrinski game, I was just sat there. So I want to win, but I also really want to see the limbs that would go off in that stand if they score here, because it was quality. When I know, looking at the limbs when RZ scored, it was crazy. Even for a small amount of fans, it was unreal.
Yeah. Well, look, we've got a massive opportunity on Thursday to get our own back on them. We're now settled into this competition. I think they took us they played us at the right time for them. But now I think we're really settled into the tournament, and we should come out on top. We will be doing a match preview for that. We've got loads of shows coming up across the week. We've got Talking Tactics with Gareth, hopefully tomorrow. I just need to check that out. So make sure you keep in line with the channel. Some great praise for you in the comments, mate, which is brilliant. Stephen says, great show from Max tonight. Rich saying, top show, Rich and Max. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Thank you for getting involved in the comments. Do please smash that like button if you haven't already. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Help us on the road to 3K. Like I say, we'll be back with Talking Tactics. We'll be back with match preview for Legia. We will be back with match reaction to Legia, instant and in depth. And we've got match preview for Bournemouth, match reaction for Bournemouth. So do stick in touch with the channel. Thank you all for watching. Thank you, Max, for joining me tonight. And as always, remember, we all follow the Villa. Thanks, everyone.